Hello, and welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. I'm your host, Michael Andre Ford in San Antonio, Texas, good old US of A. And we have a very special guest today in New Zealand. We'll be getting to her introduction, more about her background in a second. I'm very excited to have her on. But this is a reminder about the show. It's a weekly show. We're recording episodes with amazing guests, incredible insights. They've met angels with me in the past, but they've also had their own incredible path with, we could say, the other side, the universe, love, and more. Often they're healers, often they're show hosts themselves. They've had incredible paths, which they share with the audience, they share with us, lessons learned, wisdom, often exercises we can do sometimes during the show. So buckle up, get ready for some inspiration, get ready for some excitement. Today, our guest is very much about intent. We're talking beautiful cultural experiences with her, and I'm very excited for her to share with us. I did want to do one side note. There's a little book called Listening to Angels, and it's received a beautiful review from Anita Morjani. And so I wanted to say thank you as part of a show that's really all about setting your intent. I wanted to say thank you to Anita Morjani. You can find that on Amazon, on my website, and that book, because we will be talking about our guest's book that's being released June 7th this year, and it's a gorgeous book, Manifestors Unite. I'm going to mention it now. But this little Listening to Angels book is probably going to be repackaged next year for its 10th year anniversary. It's short. I didn't write it. I saw balls of light as I was typing. It's a treat. It's a one-page forward, one-page intro, 3 pages, how to listen to angels. And I literally kid you not, it's 15 minutes to read. It was Amazon's #2 bestseller, April 30th of last year. So enough for plugging a book. Let's get to the show, and let's get to an amazing guest from New Zealand, Kia ora, CARMELLE RILEY, healer, singer, author, jewelry, and much more. Also still evolving on her path, and really with an amazing vision for folks, but she keeps it tapped down, keeping it to the moment, practicing her awareness, practicing setting her intent, her positivity. She's slowly making her way forward, which is a much more powerful, impactful way to do this. So I am very appreciative for having her on the show. Welcome, CARMELLE.
Tēnā koe, kia ora, Michael. Thank you for having me here. I just have to note that I think we have survived just 2 Uranus storms to be together. In my end with floods, and in your end with exploding power stations and power outages. So I'm really honoured and grateful to be here and actually being able to participate in the interview with you. It feels like a lifetime. It feels like all our ancestors were, making it slower so that we had to tread slowly.
And for some background, CARMELLE and I have talked a bunch of times. She was kind enough to have me on her show, I believe, last year. And we set up the recording, and she's on the northern island of New Zealand to the west of Auckland. I mean, many would say Auckland, but it's Ruatuna, that area, which is much more jungly, and you can catch the vegetation behind her. If we're lucky, there'll be some songbirds, and she'll cover that later. But as we were going to record a week ago, I literally was like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hitting the recording button. And we had a ice situation here in San Antonio, and the power went out at that exact moment. So today is the day. We're very fortunate. I'd like to plug her a little bit, and by that I just mean manifestorsunite.com. And Manifestors is with an O. So manifestorsunite.com is her website. It's the name of her future book, which we're going to get to, and much more. I know that a lot of shows like to wait to the end, but if you do go and start checking out her background, I would encourage you to go back and watch the entire show, because that'll set the tone and set your intent for what will transpire later when we begin listening to angels and potentially more, maybe a little bit of healing too. So CARMELLE, tell us about New Zealand. Tell us about your path. Where did you get started? Where did you grow up? You take us whichever direction you'd like to take us.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Well, first, I'd just like to make a mihi. So a mihi is like saying well, it's actually recognition, and it's part of the intent, because many of us do not realize how connected we are with our ancestors, And everyone on your show has a long lineage, we say, of whakapapa. So I just firstly want to mihi to those who have passed before us. I want to mihi to our whenua, to the land. I want to mihi to the environment that we live in, because we are our environment. The health of our environment is us. I want to mihi to you for your leadership, your rangatiratanga, and having this show, which is a beautiful example of your love, the angels and positivity fused in what you are sharing. And I want to mihi to everyone who is listening. I want to mihi to you, and to you recognizing the divinity that is within you, and it is always accessible as soon as you remember. So thank you. Yeah, so that's the mihi part. And we had a little chat about intent. So we would normally, after an acknowledgement, we'd go into a prayer or a karakia, or in this case, I'm just going to set a little intent. And this is a really short, it's called a whakatoki, and it's a proverb. And it is aroha mai, aroha atu. And that is love given is love returned. And love is the highest vibration of our universe. It is breath, it is love. So that is what I'm setting, what I'm putting into the ether for all of us today.
Oh, I love it. And before the show, we blew some sage. I may do so again at the beginning, because that would be just another way to add to the intent. And I did have a quote that I wanted to bring up. It's, in American society, we think something is happening when there is talking. In Native American tribes, something is happening when there is silence. So it's just another spoke on the wheel, another way to approach the same topic of getting out of the hustle and bustle, what we think we know, and making sure we honor the present moment and all the invisible energies that are the higher vibes, and bringing them in and asking for a little support as well. So with that, I think we've taken a couple steps. I will take some sage, light it, and blow it. We'll do this again at the end. So for those watching, you don't have to participate, but if you do, just simply ask your amakua, your ancestors, your family, your guides, your angels, the universe, use the language that's appropriate for your background. But if you would consider addressing angels, got photos of angels, I know they exist, and that's my shtick. So ask angels to make it nice, to bring you the sage smoke wherever you're at in the world. And I've just lit some sage. I'm taking a red-tailed hawk feather. If you've watched the show before, you've seen everybody do this. And just let go. I'll tell one simple dad joke that's the most basic one of all. Probably one of my worst. Please don't judge. But that's the whole point here, is feel what you feel, don't judge. And if you can get to your heart, you're going to connect to the sage smoke right away. What's the only flower, to talk flowers and vegetation, seeing so much beauty behind Carmel, what's the only flower found on the human face? Tulips. Totally a bad one. And a great one as well.
I have to sip some coffee for that with my tulips, because that is such a great dad joke.
And with that, let's get started. Where were you born, Carmel?
Oh, so that's a question we say, no here kwe, where are you from? And so I'm from a very small town. I think I don't know, it's very small. It's called Levin. And as I've aged, I now call it Horowhenua, which makes it sound a lot better than it is. But it's in the bottom of the North Island by our capital city, Wellington. But pretty much from that point, we went south. So I've lived in Te Waiponamu, which is the big island of Pounamu, and the mainland, as we would call it here, pretty much my entire life until a few months ago when I came up here to this forest area. Yeah. But my ancestors have come from all over the Pacific, and also from within New Zealand. And it's actually very common to New Zealanders. We're all navigators. We pretty much all came on a waka, a canoe, or a big ship. The English were the last to come, 300 years ago. But everybody came on a ship to New Zealand. And so that we're at the bottom of the earth. In fact, on a lot of maps, we're not even on the map. But a few events have made us a little bit more known to the world. But yeah, we're an island culture. and in particular up here it's nice and warm. So everyone has come from somewhere else in the world to come to New Zealand.
I love it. I love it. Okay. We know you're a healer. Why don't we go that direction and just have you describe some of the ways that you pick up on what's going on, how you help others. How would you describe your skill set? How would you describe someone from the outside watching this? How can they contact you? What can they expect? What sort of services that are the frontline services, the most often that you're sought out? How do you help folks?
So two branches really. The I think the natural healing is what I love the most, and that is breath work and heart work. And that is the breath work is really for pain relief, and the heart work is for all sorts of. I mean, I don't even know how to explain how the heart moves in a way that we can't even understand. So that is much more for helping people with kind of deep-seated issues. And then I work with the mind, and I mostly do that through group hypnosis, through workshops, and through online and in person, where I teach people how they can access those slow brainwaves, that theta brainwave that which is our naturally creative brainwave, and that we ran when we were 0 to 7. And most of us in that time, we formed these mind patterns, and a lot of them were through our parents, through our family, through our churches, through our schools, through our society. They came unconsciously and they sit with us for our whole life. So it's really about accessing that same brainwave so that you can check those early influences and decide if they're helpful to you, because that's the thing. Most people have these events and relationships that are showing up in their life that they don't like, and they don't realize that's a product of everything that's come before them. And some of that stuff goes right back to the 1.5 billion years ago when we were amoeba, and our evolution is, and our genetic evolution, our epigenetic evolution. So really that part is the consciousness, is the awareness. And I think that's probably that has the most impact when a person meets their own mind, their own spirit, their own heart, their own connection into the divine, their own responsibility for impacting the divinity of their life and the divinity of everything around us. So yeah, but we do that through the focusing of our mind. So that is where I've kind of ended up in later years, is actually teaching people, not as the other healing work. I would be working with someone and they think I'm the healer. They're actually the healer. I just open the door. But with particularly with meditation and hypnosis, the way I teach it is that the person meets their own gifts, their own healing abilities, their own creativity, their own ancestors, their own connections, and they learn to do it themselves as opposed to me assisting them. Do you see the difference? I
Absolutely.
hope I've explained that well.
Oh, I love that. And it's such a natural approach. It's empowering, because that's one of your big, if we had to pick 10 or 20 words for you, empowerment would definitely be one of them. And people should know that you were I think I could say corporate attorney, but you've switched gears, obviously more the healing path. Can you take us through, not necessarily childhood, but when did you notice your skill set being broader than just you're thinking business world? And you obviously still went the corporate attorney route. And at some point, the scales changed and you decided to go full healing. And you still do legal work, I believe, or at least advise more on the community level, let's say tribal matters and stuff like that. Take us through sort of the evolution of your growing up. Did you have skills when you were young, but you acknowledged them, others acknowledged them, you pushed them aside? How did it unfold for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because people used to say when I was a teenager how spiritual I was, and I used to get really mad with them. So I think it may be because my upbringing as a small child was actually filled with a lot of terror. I grew up with teenage parents who didn't want to be together. My mother got pregnant to my father at a party, and he was passing through town, and and it was really shameful. So she was forced to marry, and she really didn't want to have children. My mum is really intelligent, and she really did not like being a teenage mother. And my father he ran away from home when he was 12. So he came from a lot of violence and was very violent, and they were an explosive mix. So that was really hard for me to grow up in. And then in addition to that, my father's Jehovah's Witness as well. So there was I grew up with a lot of fire and brimstone, and a lot of black and white, and a lot of people falling down holes and like being squashed by Armageddon. Uh, all of those. Maybe they just appeal to me. I don't know, but that's how I grew up. So when I got into, I think it was an early age, I was like, I just need to get away, and I need to have the means to be able to get away. And and I loved reading, and so I moved into studying the law, and but even with that, I think I didn't understand it, because in New Zealand, uh, most people in their early 20s will go to England and go and live in London. And I didn't. I went to Blenheim, which is in a very small town, and went to work for a tribe. So even though I had graduated as a lawyer, I worked for tribes. And it was a really cool time, because we were starting to get some resurgence, and there was understanding of some of the land right claims, and I was part of that. So I just started setting up fishing trusts and companies and incorporated societies, and then working with people to set them up well. And so even though I had a very I guess traditional legal qualification, I never applied it in that way. I always applied it in a way that was working with families, because tribes are just big families. And so when tribal business is the same as normal business, except that you're balancing your responsibility for the environment, your responsibility for old people, your responsibility for young people, your responsibility for culture. It's kind of like a quadruple bottom line, which makes business it's just a family business. So yeah, and the spiritual element for Indigenous cultures, particularly Māori Pacific, where there's not too much domination of some of the really strong religious viewpoints, which I don't have a problem with, but they are, if that's what people choose, that's what they choose. But the spiritual element is just part of how we operate. You talk about silence. So when we meet on a meeting house, there's always silence. And then there's a call, and it's normally a woman who will call people through. And we're constantly integrating these realms in this practice of sacredness and normalness or commonness, balancing the two elements, as you do. So when you start your show, you create the intention, you set the scene, you bring in the ancestral influences, and then you get stuck into the business. It's the same thing, but it's just not as common in an environment where, in our modern world, we just rush into the thing that is we have to do. We don't acknowledge how sacred it is to be alive, how sacred it is to have all our ancestors around us. I mean, you have so many ancestors with you. So many.
It's a little like rushing out of the house and missing the flower bed where the tulips have just opened for the first time, and you're either glued to the iPhone or just rushing to get the car key into the car to get to work, and rush, rush, rush. It's moving fast up top. I've absolutely enjoyed our interactions, but I still remember reaching out to you. It was either a year or two ago, but the very first question, and I've had it asked before from a Hawaiian elder type or healer type. I want to choose my words carefully. From various indigenous cultures, there can be a challenge, and it'll be viewed as a challenge by maybe a Westerner, like, what's your intent? And so I've been asked that before, and I never know quite how to answer, because I never know exactly why I'm reaching out. I'm like, hey, does a virtual tea sound fun for introductions? And then I have to wait and see which way the wind blows, and it's like letting a feather out onto the breeze. I don't know where it's going to land or if I'll even see it again. But with you, you hung in there with me, and we set the intent. We had a chance to meet, and here we are today, many, many conversations later. So I'm very appreciative of that. Tell us more about when you decided to put a shingle out to commit yourself to helping others, but first by working your space and honoring your space and honoring what we can't see. Tell us about how you shifted from tribal affairs, and I'm sure you, again, still do some, but you're not committed full-time. You've been doing jewelry, stones, healing work, singing, and many other things, including putting together a fabulous book we're going to get to in a second, Manifestors Unite, coming out in June. Tell us more about your path.
Well, I always describe this. I was dragged kicking and screaming by my ancestors to Waitakere, which means spirituality. Wairua is the two rivers that converge. The rivers are the universal and the physical, and we're constantly navigating them. When we spend too much time in the physical, the universal, our ancestors, guide us into those deeper realms. And I was literally dragged kicking and screaming into meeting my own consciousness. And I, like many people, I wasn't one of those. I didn't have a divine inspiration and see the angels. I basically saw a lot of darkness, and I was forced because I became incredibly enmeshed in a really violent situation at home with my partner, and I was just as much a part of that. We had a lot of family violence, and so there was an event that really crystallized me into having to actually say, well, this is just as much my part as it is the person that I'm blaming, who at that point was my husband. So we had 3 years of separation. And not only was I experiencing that conflict with him, but I had intense conflict in every single realm. So, and some of it was quite public, and it was really difficult because it it just I had to really experience this incredibly violent and incredibly angry uh, set of incidents until I said, "Look, it's not them, it's me," and I then did this huge deep dive into my cave of Waitakere and learned how to meditate and learned how to access those unconscious parts, which all came from childhood. They came from witnessing, significant violence. Okay, there were worse. There was because the great anger's amazing. Like if you've got anger and you can manage it, just keep it there. If you're a physical person and you just want to keep the anger, you can channel it. When you take away anger, you find all the other. You'll find all those other vibrations, all the other decisions that you made unconsciously in your childhood. And that can be hard for most people. It's easier to numb yourself with alcohol and drugs or blame or judgment or criticism. And you also have to remember that I think in pretty much every single one of my lines, there's cultural disconnection and there is violence. Warfares, like the tribes of Aotearoa and not just here, all over, there's warfare and there's hardship and there's division and there's conflict. So I kind of have got that, that runs in my veins. It did run in my veins until I actually, took some responsibility for the haka within and just said, no, these are not the ancestors that I want to get out of bed with every day. I want to get out. I want to meet some of my other ancestors. I want to be present with the gardeners and the healers and the creators and the navigators. Those are the ones who I choose. And unless you find stillness with them, and it's a secret process. I love Neville Goddard because he talks about secret, but it's not secret as in secret. It's just a parable or a metaphor. We all have to find the silence within, and we can't find anything about ourselves without that silence. We're racing around if we're smothering, if we're, constantly doing, if we're constantly distracted, if we're constantly looking outside ourselves, we cannot find our whakapapa, our lineage, our true connection, our true meaning for being on this beautiful planet, being alive, our star ancestors, because I think that was probably the part about my own journey, my own spirituality that I loved the most, is all my star ancestors turned up. And they're really big ones. I come from Hini Takurua, who was Sirius. She was right on the eastern horizon as I took my first breath, which is your rising sign. And Autahi, or Canopus, which is a tapu star. It's a place you go to be in the cave and to gain wisdom and to receive it. So they are my guiding, and a few others, but they're my real guiding stars. And you just go out here. We go out in June through to August, and you can see them at dawn or at dusk. And so none of that would have come if I had just stayed in my old, my old skin, I suppose.
I love this. And so you regularly take the time to sit and be with the elements, but it's really the universe. It's really your lineage. It's really your helpers that you're sitting with. It's really your consciousness to bring in further awareness, more connection, more love, more presence. Can you take us through in the last couple of years a really, I'm sure they're all impactful because that's what it's about, but it is taking time out of the daily hustle and bustle. Take us through a time you either went to a cave or just sat, could be the backyard or a more sacred spot or everything is sacred. Take us through a time that you can share where you went in with a certain either situation or just wanting to cultivate more presence, more connection. You felt disconnected. Take us through a time where, you did all this so that the audience can get more flavor on what this is about.
So I think we're really lucky here in Aotearoa because, for a start, our land is ruled by Uranus, which is why we have huge earthquakes that rip up cities and towns and our land and our coastlines. We have volcanic eruptions, which are also, they are really devastating. We've had one quite recently. And now we're having flooding in many areas. So Uranus at the moment is in Taurus, which is in the earth, the realms of the earth, and it rules our security, that star realm. So this landscape is ruled by Aquarius and Uranus. So you cannot avoid being dragged into these into the relationship with the atua, or the relationship with the elementals. So I have a special place that I go to, lots of special places, but there are many places here where if you actually just stand on the land, particularly in the South Island, because we have the mountains which are uplift from the earthquakes, and it's very new. So our geography is actually quite new and it's unsettled, and we're on the ring of fire. So there are many places where you can stand and you can literally feel the earthquake zones that are just like right under your feet. And if you're not careful, I've had a time when my whole body has just been, everything has been shifted up and down by, I presume, some force of the earthquakes beneath my feet. And so there are areas where this is really strong. One area that I go to is a set of limestone formations called Te Kohanga or Te Atua, or Kuratawhiti, otherwise known as Castle Hill, and it's between Christchurch and on the west coast. So it's a set of limestone boulders that are they're actually very like the formations at Easter Island. And that area is very, very, very sacred. It is, and there are rocks. So that's a place that I would go because it also intersects with the Orion star belt. And it's a place where you just know that you cannot miss the divinity.
So Castle Hill is very sacred, very, very special. And the limestone, tell us, is it daytime, nighttime, both? Is it a 1 day, 2 day journey? Is it by car, park, walkaways, sit? Do you make a circle? Take us through. um I'm sure it's different every time, or some of it's different depending on what the intent was going in and what you're looking to come out
Mhm.
with. Sometimes you don't even know, and you're just like, hey, this, and it's not about the words. But take us through, so somebody watching right now can understand a little bit more about the process. You get to, it's Castle Hill, I take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Kuratafti is the other. There's a number of names. But I like to kohanga o te atua, which means the meeting place of gods.
Hmm.
And it really is. So if you can imagine Stonehenge times 1,000, so 1,000 of those massive rocks on a very steep hill.
Hmm.
And most people just go to it's a short walk from a car park, and you just walk into this sort of stony ring, huge, 100 feet, 150 feet, big, big, big rocks, limestone. But amongst that, then there's all these other places you can go and sit. And then up on the hill, there are a set of these really big kaitiaki or guardians where that's a good, you have to be really fit because it's steep as. But it's just a place where to most people, it's just a really pretty place, some really big rocks, and it breaks up your journey. It's 50 minutes from Christchurch. Some people, I mean, I have a lifetime connection with the kaitiaka at the top, Marotini. I feel her all the time, and I have these check-ins with her, even though I'm 1,000 kilometers away. It's I just have I have the presence of her in my backbone, and I'm just connected. So it's a lifetime journey for me. But for others, you just go there to sit. A lot of people do go there and meditate, because the thing with I mean, you can this divinity within us exists. But when you go to a place on the land where these kind of intersects are, or when you wake up to a brilliant sunrise, or see an amazing sunset, the the proof is so irrefutable. You don't need to second guess it. And we're physical creatures, and most of us love to have things, physically validated for us to believe them. So this is a place where it's a no-brainer. You'll go there, you go, whoa, those are amazing rocks. And then if you are not just walking around, and if you're slow enough, all sorts of quite interesting things can happen. New moons, really powerful. Full moons, I've never been there on a full moon, I'm probably too scared. Uh, People do midnight treks. People go and spend days up there. It's really. I know the Dalai Lama came, and might have. I think he described it as one of the heart centers of the world.
Hmm.
So it's significant. Yeah, but if you're not into that, you just go there and sit, and it's a beautiful. I've been with many people where they've just gone, oh, these are awesome rocks.
I love it. Um, and it's one of those places that people can slow down. But it's what you also said, and I know Joseph Campbell mentioned this in The Power of Myth with Bill Moyers. He talked about just seeing a sunset, or it was a sunrise. I think it was a sunset, and your reaction is or ooh, and you have that connection. And it's hard to be doing something else in the middle of a sunset. That is one of those moments for all
Yeah,
humans that
yeah.
draws your attention. You appreciate, your awareness kicks in, and there's
Mm,
something bigger than words can describe that transacts in that moment. And
yeah,
I think that's what we're touching upon here.
yeah.
So tell us about your book. How long have you been working on Manifestors Unite? And it's culminated. I know there's a final editor's copy. The publishing date's been set. Tell us
Mm.
about, how did it fulminate? How did you come about wanting to do the book?
I think it was after I started teaching some workshops for people group with self hypnosis. And there's so much of a bad rep with hypnosis, because people think that they're going to be turned into a chicken by a guy on stage and reveal silliness about themselves. And pretty much that myth has stuck. So when you are teaching people about their mind and to access that divinity within, in the same way, to experience the sunrise every day in their own, within themselves, and with their eyes closed, it takes, it probably takes a good, I don't know, 2 to 3 sessions, and people always think it's you. And I'm like, no, that's your mind. I've got nothing to do with that. That's your spirit. That's you, bro. uh, so I decided to write a book about and to try and make it easy, because I think that that's the thing. Like if you are spiritual and you are out of the spiritual closet, it's something that when you can see others struggling away in pain and unconsciousness, you want to share it, and not in the sense of I'm proselytizing you into my brand of thinking, but I just want you to meet your own, to see the side of you that isn't your thoughts and your beliefs. So that's largely the reason why I decided to write it. And it was really interesting because I have a friend. He's just the most amazing. He's an incredibly spiritual person, and he read the first draft and he said, "You're not going to be able to do it. You can't describe the universe. You just can't. You're not going to be able to do it." And my husband, he's another skeptic, and he's like, he doesn't believe that I can do it either. But yeah, so I was like, no, I'm going to try and make it as practical as possible. And that was really how, and I guess the other thing with it is, I wanted to be different to the mainstream manifestors, because everybody is a manifestor. We're all manifesting all the time. Our thoughts, our feelings create our realities, period. Our limitations, our beliefs create our experiences, period. Super manifesting is the process of using love and positivity, and I guess angels, consistently. And so it's different. So I wanted to show that there was manifesting, everybody, manifestoring, which is, letting your 80% negative default conditioned thinking, blaming, criticizing, fear, judgment, uncertainty, all of those negativity vibrations that we can access easily, they rule. And then, but super manifesting was arising above it and saying, no, I see the world through my rose-colored glasses. I see myself through the best light. I see others in their best light. And that's hard. Don't you agree? That is hard.
It's hard, but it's the opportunity. And back to the beginning of the conversation today, it's creating the space for a different type of awareness, for a broader awareness. And that broader awareness is the opening into the heart. It's the opening into everything that you think you want to have happen on your life path, whether it's business, career, health, relations, and so on, or finding that true love. It doesn't happen through the ego, through the thinking, anything from the neck up, from structure or trying really hard. Now, that doesn't mean people haven't had success working really hard, but what we're trying to get at, whether it's this episode or all the other episodes, is there's something bigger in life, no matter which way we call it, and no matter which country you're from. And there are folks who have tapped into it. You've tapped into it all the time. For the audience watching, you do it daily. You cannot. It's part of the human and being experience, but you don't give yourself credit when you do tap into it most of the time. So you're practicing love more than you realize. You're thinking in a way that denies love. And then there's this amazing contrast that people like CARMELLE RILEY in New Zealand help you overcome, become aware about, let go of, do your own work to grow and to realize or self-actualize. Now, when we talk your influences, you've mentioned Joe Dispenza, Esther Hicks, Ken Honda. Was it Neville Goddard you mentioned at the beginning of this? He had a great take on things.
Yeah. I love Neville Goddard because he made me, so I grew up, as I said, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. And I grew up with all these stories of fire and brimstone, all the things you're not supposed to do, and all the hardships you had to suffer. And I have a lot of I have a lot of Christian friends, even family members. They're either gang members or Christians, one or the other. But we have a lot of I have a lot of religious friends, and I never have an issue with their spirituality, but I do struggle with some of the archetypes. And so Neville Goddard, what I love about him is that and I don't know why I never thought about it myself, but he encourages us to look at the Bible, particularly the New Testament, as for the metaphor for that God, Jesus, Mary, all of these personifications are streams of consciousness, and to look at everything for the higher meaning. And when you look at that and you strip away, thou shalt not do this, and Jesus is not moaning, all of that stuff, what you find behind that is that it's actually a call to use our imagination, to walk in our faith, not in our senses. And that really was a game changer for me in terms of, not needing to find a new way to be present with religious mode. So I can completely be there, and I'm totally, I've been able to reconcile that, and that was hard because I did really struggle to reconcile religious faith with my experience of reality, of the people who were in this faith, who were not that, to me, were not leading with their faith. They were practicing with their unconscious patterns. So I love Neville Goddard for that. He's just the best. He's the best super manifestor that I think has ever written. Yeah, he's incredible. Joe Dispenza's work is very similar, and many of us, again, just that concentration on being forward, not looking at what we want, not looking at it, saying it's out there, but bringing it in and walking or sitting with that energy. And I love that he brings in, being able to measure it with encephalographs and showing people how their mind works when they stop this part, when they slow down into theta. But there's other people as well. I really love Fiona Stable's work with theta healing. I love theta. That's one of the first places that I would, when I start teaching people, I just say to them, look, just use this word, just say go theta,
That's a great one.
Well, seriously, if you use it, if you say go theta, pretty much that stream of consciousness will just come to you. And that we all need things to make it easy, hacks to remind us that we can get into a deeper part of ourselves and not just focus on what it is that we have to do, or who it is we have to see, or what it is we have to get done today.
So your background has been such that and a lot of people out there watching have had this, different struggles, different situations they felt that they've had to overcome or let go of or move on from, or there are people who are in the middle of situations. Again, it's part of what being human is all about: drama, relationships, difficulties, my problem is, and so on. But the opportunity that if a person is out of the mind a little bit more, they realize it's an opportunity for a fantastic foundation. And then wait and see where the universe takes you. That's the journey. So talk to us about either the healing journey. We never stop healing. We never stop growing. But tell us an experiential part of your healing journey, your letting go, appreciating your foundation, because you've got a big one now. Or tell us an encounter where you had to pay attention. You couldn't just roll over in bed. Now, when you said how much you might have resisted kicking and screaming to allow for more than just our thinking, I was laughing. I don't think I was kicking and screaming, but I certainly at 3:30 in the morning was rolling over in bed and ignoring an invite from the universe to come out to the living room. And my cat, a little orange cat named Macy, was super brave, would trot out there every time. Yours truly would be zing away, sleeping, roll over, be like, okay, next time, and go to bed. And then even when I got out to the living room, I'd put MTV on to watch a music video or an old black and white. They were safe. And yet the black and white would turn out to be a guardian angel movie. The MTV, music video would be hello, hello, hello. I just came by to say hello. Dragonette and the other guy from France, the DJ. So the point of that is you can put it off and you get a lot of patience, and there's a lot of help, and your helpers, your guides, your ancestral family members, your angels know exactly who you are, where you're at. There is probably a couple ski gates, like a giant slalom. You've got to make that gate where they will say, okay, enough. And they'll bring in an event that will get you to pay attention more. But share with us a couple of those moments where you tried, you gave it your best effort up here to resist. And then the universe sort of smacked you around a little in a gentle, hugging, loving way, or not so much. And you had to pay attention a little bit more.
Well, I don't ask for signs anymore. I just don't ask for signs because I'm Cancer rising, Cancer moon. So if I get a sign, it's going to be a big one. It's going to be an earthquake. It's going to be a tsunami. It's going to be a tornado. So I don't ask for signs. I think the biggest event was when I was, as I said, when I was really angry. I kind of use it as my origin story for waking up. But I was on a plane with my husband, and we've been together since we were 16. Since I was 16, he was 19, which is very similar to my own background. And we had this period of we had to separate, and we had three kids. We were apart. It was very hostile, and he got made a captain in between this. He was a co-pilot for ages, and he'd become a captain. So I don't know how I'd never flown with him as a captain. I don't think I'd flown with him. And it's a commercial airline. So we were leaving Wellington. I'd been there for business, and they said, "Oh, Captain Riley is flying the plane." And I whipped out my phone because we hadn't left, and I was like, "Better be a good landing, Captain." And literally within 2 minutes, we'd climbed out of Wellington. A black bag gull, big black bag gull, went through the left engine on my side. I was there. There was the engine. Exploded. We're on one engine. The whole cabin filled with smoke and the smell of barbecued gull. And I am laughing my head off, like literally. Everyone else around me is panicking, and we're in the plane's going do 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 do. We're an emergency landing into Wellington. I laughed the whole way down. Highly inappropriate. This poor young one was freaking out next to me, and I was like, "Don't worry, your number's not up tonight, honey." And we got down, and I was like, "Whoa!" Now he says that was just coincidence, and it was an amazing. He's never ever had an emergency landing. It's pretty spectacular, and but it did make me think. Then I kind of was like, there's some causal connection between the virulence of my emotions and thinking and events. I was like, don't think I'm going to do that again, and that really was the event where I just said, look, this is me. I have to do something about this anger within. I have to learn a new way of being with myself. So yeah, that's kind of dramatic. And yeah, I'm really careful. I haven't flown with him since. Maybe it's a good idea that husbands and super manifestors shouldn't fly together. But there's been many events after that. But I think that's probably the most dramatic, and I do talk about that in the book quite a bit. There's a couple of others, but yeah, it is. Once you stop being unconscious and make this connection between this thought bank, your 70,000 thoughts, and your feelings that you run every day, and you've been running since you were 2, and someone told you were useless, and you've run that program for 40, 30, 40, 50 years. When you make a connection between, oh, okay, this is why I'm consistently inviting situations where people tell me I'm useless, with that event, and you make the connection with your neural, which is why I think the mind is so important. Our minds are so important, in terms of clearing out that junk, that toxic junk. When you make that connection and you think about how many times you've thought that same thought over and over and over and over again, and then you go, well, go back to 2. Was I really useless, or was I just being 2? And I took that incredibly, I just took that the wrong way. And it's so empowering to make the causal link, because everybody thinks I'm like things in their life that seem so intense, they direct all of their emotions to that thing, as opposed to looking within themselves and taking responsibility for the pathway and the neural connections, and then just making a decision that you don't want that, because you would like to have more of the things that make you happy. it's not hard, but yet we all seem to, you know, we've had this huge debate, I'm probably going to be political, but around being vaccinated or not vaccinated, or, around these, even in New Zealand, we would have debates. People would be debating whether Donald Trump was a good president. And I'm like, guys, did you vote in your own elections? We don't know. No one voted locally, and we got this, I'm not going to say, we got a mayor that had so these are the things, like, we direct all of our intense animosity into things outside of us without saying, well, what is the benefit of that to me? Is that getting in the way of hearing, the bird song, which they still haven't tuned up, but or
we've heard a little bit of it since the show started. It's been beautiful.
Yeah.
And where we put our focus is where we put our focus. How we spend our energy is how we spend our energy. No matter how much up here or how much down here, and no matter what we call this, unconditional love, I can do it. Unconditional love, conditional thinking, awareness, the heart, letting go, the flow, creativity, imagination, love. No matter where we are, we're still responsible for the outcomes. We're responsible for how we do our energy. We might not be aware of it, and then we wonder why something, quote, happened to us. So take us through either an exercise to begin the day, to honor the day, to slow down. It's all about slowing down. When you think you're done, you think you've arrived, you think you're done learning, expanding, you can junk it, jettison it, and start all over. Take us through sort of a way to honor what we can't put our fingers on, and yet we can. Take us through a way. It could be cultural. It could be just Joe Dispenza. It could be you. It could be Manifestors Unite, the book, a chapter that you have this mentioned. I don't know that, so I'm guessing. Take us through a way that we can pump the brakes. And that's usually first thing in the morning. We're ready to go because we're so here when we first wake up. We can barely remember our name, let alone how to start the coffee maker. Let's hear a way that we can appreciate the now, our presence, and amplify all the positives that are given to us each day.
I'm going to just twist it a little bit, because first I would start with your nighttime. And this is a really practical tip, because if you go to bed with a vision of something that you are working on, and you're appreciating that this is something you really want, and you go to bed and you essentially go into what it is that you want, you go to an event that confirms it is real, and you think to yourself, okay, how am I feeling in this event? And you may even have someone, an angel, it could be an angel, it could be a real life person who's telling you that that event is true. And you just go to bed with that vision. Okay, so it could be as much as you've called in your true soulmate, and you're holding hands and you're walking, and your soulmate is telling you how much they love you and care for you. You go to bed with that, and when you feel it is to be as certain as possible, that's when you allow yourself to go into sleep. So then you get 8 hours of free theta or delta, theta and delta, because we're always going up and down. And then when you wake up in the morning, this is the first thing. See this thing here? I'm just gonna throw it.
She did that.
Don't get in the bed. Yeah. But just get your phone out of your bedroom, and when you wake up in the morning, let that vision that you've just set for yourself, let it be the first thing that comes in. Whatever the vision is, whatever that the feeling of your vision, the feeling, the powerful feelings, let your bedtime be sacred. Not just just going to bed as well as waking up, and that thing stays out. It can come on when you've got up and made a cup of coffee, but it's like sealing this powerful gift that you have. Theta and delta brainwaves are the way that you embed new subconscious mind programs. So I do talk about that in the book. I do explain to people that dreaming time is honoured by many Indigenous cultures, Aborigine cultures. That the dream time is huge for them. I know a lot of Native American and Native Canadian Indians dream time is so important. A lot of our cultures honor dream time, and there's a reason for that. They're wise. And here's the tui calling alongside to just to affirm. Yeah, he comes when he feels like it.
Is a tui a colorful bird, or what does it look like for us?
Dark blue. I just want to see if I can find some feathers. There he is. An ancient bird, actually, because our birds are quite ancient. I think that maybe they're dark blue and they have a white quiff. It's not as big as that, but that's the like a little quiff here. There he is. And they are raucous, dark blue black, and they're about this big. But they call the dawn chorus, and the evening chorus is really loud. Yeah, so he's just singing.
So what time is it there in New Zealand right now?
It is, I think it's about, I threw my phone away.
I just guesstimate for us. Evening?
It's around 9 o'clock. It's they pretty much here there because there's a rainforest around me, so they're often here in the day.
Oh, it's morning. I'm sorry. That's right. It's 19 hours difference.
Yeah, because you're in the afternoon. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Well, this is so exciting. We're touching on a lot of topics, and we're touching on a lot of topics that have been brought up before, but it's very easy to have separation where we're more approaching these topics as a student or a teacher, or in a way that there's separation. We're actually one with all these topics, and it's awakening to an action within, energy within, that's beyond words or structure, but we still need routine. We need exercises. We need something to help us get from here to get to here to experience. So you've given us the evening exercise to focus on a wonderful imagination scene, and that we're participating in it, that it's here, and to wake up to it as well, so that we've got a good portion of our day. The box has been checked. If the ego has to come in here, we've checked the box. We've spent at least 9 hours on a very positive vision, and that we're embodying it so that it can come to us. We're not resisting it. We're not saying one day. We're not saying my problem is, and I won't be happy until that happens, which is a sign of lack. Peaceful Warrior, the gymnastics movie, Dan Millman, at the end of the movie, one of the gymnasts says exactly what the gymnast, the main character, said at the beginning of the movie when he was setting up stuff that wasn't going to happen. One day I'll be happy when I win the Olympic gold medal. And here at the end of the movie with Nick Nolte, Amy Smart, I think he's sitting at the NCAAs. He's done really well. I think he won for Berkeley, the NCAAs, with his performance. He's sitting there in the chair at peace, having arrived as a peaceful warrior. And the guy next to him says, because he knows his dad's been pushing him to win a gold, and he's only about one thing: I'll be happy when I win the gold medal someday. And you get to see the whole full circle of it. So I mentioned that movie only because if you wanted a resource that wasn't a book, wasn't a seminar, wasn't an audio CD, wasn't a show, that is a fantastic movie. It won't ruin the book. But with the mention of outside sources, there's Joe Dispenza, Esther Hicks. Is it The Vortex? Tell us one or two books you would also recommend for folks to pick up. Yours is not out yet, so you can't use yours just yet. They have to wait till June 7th, but they can pre-order, I bet. Tell us, Esther Hicks out there. Is it Joe Dispenza? Tell us a resource or two that people can. Mike Mandel, I think you mentioned.
Oh, he's good for hypnosis.
Okay, he's hypnosis. Tell us, where can people reach out to start to calm down and not worry about if they can do it, so that they can start doing it?
So I started my healing journey when I started to learn tricks, because I really wanted to learn tricks. So Richard Gordon's Quantum Touch, The Secret Life of Matter, is a beautiful book, because I think the thing that I really love about Quantum Touch is the breathing, because 5% of the population breathe consciously. And when you start to really breathe, and particularly for your own healing or to work with other people, it's one of the most natural abilities that we have to deliver healing through our hands. We all have that gift. It's just that some of us choose to practice it. So yeah, Richard Gordon, the reason why I got interested in him is he did this, I watched something, it might have been a YouTube video, about how he can shift backs. I was like, I want to learn how to do that.
Shift what again?
Scoliosis. He could touch a
Oh,
person's back.
backs. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I loved that, and I think his work is powerful. Really, quantum touch is a really, it's really a really interesting modality because all it is breath and opening your heart, and they're really simple. So I love that. I've never got an advanced reader because it helps you to give a new higher meaning to the Bible. I also love Deepak Chopra. I just love his meditative work, and yeah, there's so many. There's so many books. I think the thing is, one of the real true callings that we have to find within ourselves are our ways of symbolism. So you've actually really made me revisit angels because I'm not a visual person.
But now's your opportunity to change that. And before bed tonight, I'm the
People do
most
say
visual person that ever was. And I'll
no, but I
see.
am a visual. I am, but I don't think I've. Yeah, I am, and you can see how many angels are shining behind. But I never really thought about angels as in terms of light, because maybe just there's so much light here, you just don't. It's a you have to find your own language. I'm really audio, so when I do healing work with people, even on the other side of the world, I'll just get this random song. Like once I got that song, I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts, and I was like, what the? I was like, I said to the person, do you understand this song? And they're like, oh yeah. I think I went to this tropical market and I loved coconuts. I'm like, okay, right, whatever. So that is mine, and the feels like I can feel the vibrations of the land, and I know when to leave somewhere because I'll just get this time to go, and I'll just like skip out the door. So those are definitely very strong pronounced inner senses that I have, and the visual is for me comes when I'm having conversation with animals. And if I really get deeply into that theta, I can get some visions. But I really have to work hard on, and that's just because I've got other dominant senses. Everyone's the same, and if you have the gustatory, if you can smell, I always say that put that into your imaginary work. What is it that you're smelling? What is it you're tasting? Because it really anchors it. Because there's such our sight is so we get 11 million bits of information, data coming at us.
So before bed, if you want to picture that special loved one, your soulmate that hasn't yet materialized in your life right this second, you can choose a vision on the beach, but perhaps ask for a perfume wafting through the air. So you're going to recognize that soulmate. That's a perfume you haven't yet caught. This is 3 weeks, 3 years away when you're supposed to meet. And ask to have the perfume or the cologne, if you're a woman listening, or whichever way this works. Ask for the olfactory sense to kick in. Or maybe you're at a restaurant and this is going to happen, the meeting. So it's just the best bowl of clam chowder. And you've got that aroma coming in, or it's the ocean.
Exactly.
Maui. Yeah. I love it.
The other thing, I said gustatory, which is your taste. So taste and smell.
Taste. So yes.
Yeah, your sense of smell is very strong, which is why the sage coming through is but it's powerful because it anchors. The other thing I always say to people is in your image, look at your feet. What do you got on your feet? Don't ask me why I say that and why it works, but every single time I want to bring something to manifest from out what I think is the imaginary world and make it real in my world. It's just me aligning with where it already exists. I bring my feet into it, and often they're barefooted. We're very into having our bare feet here.
I have to here more than not. Sandals, flip-flops at the most, and then they're over there and I'm barefoot now. It's such a critical thing. I know folks watching it, there's a lot of culture here, but a lot of this is in different places and yet parallel to each other. Whether we're talking Hawaii, New Zealand, I'm going to lose all my English right now, but the point is there's a lot of truths that it doesn't matter which way you find those truths to be applicable to your own experience in life. It's really the difference from being up here to getting here. Anyone can show you, but a responsible healer is simply going to kindle the light within you. So your self-discovery, your self-journey, your awareness is more often down here instead of lost up here. With your permission, Carmelle, this is Carmelle Riley in Ruatuna, west of Auckland, New Zealand, the Northern Island. She's a tremendous singer, and we will not have her sing much, if at all, because she blows out our speakers if she sings. So we're still going to find those clips to bring in for social media to highlight this episode coming out. I believe you're February 26th, your episode number 6 on angels, positivity, and love. But how about we divert for a second to our hands? I'll put my hand up. Let's do some clearing presence, wiggle those toes. And I'm going to put my hand up only with the highest intent, compassion, love, rainbow light. Big energy, as she would say. Positivity coming your way. And just tell the audience, sorry, I'll do my left hand. Tell the audience what you're feeling.
You know, I got this message from Joy at the beginning when I was tapping in, which was stupidity always. And I was like, why did those words come? Have you got any meaning for that? Stupidity always. Could have been stupendous. I don't know. It just was like a really. And then I was like, does that mean humor? I don't know.
Here, ask her really quick to clarify. You're on the spot. Here she is. Just ask her to clarify for you. And what did you get?
Soporific.
Ooh, you got to define that word for me. I've forgotten.
I think it's this soporific is like an explosion of sensory. Yeah, it's like the smell. It's like a huge smell, soporific. Entrancing. Interesting.
Okay, now no one's done this on the show yet, and it's not a big deal. It's just a piece of citrine that I'm going to hold up if you'd like to feel it from afar. And if you can just enjoy a little bit of citrine visually, but also bring it in and give us a word. I mean, everything speaks. Trees, the birds, we only have to listen. And even a stone or a crystal will speak. And Mary once said, love isn't everything. Open your eyes to see love. And then the same breath, Winnie the Pooh, everyone talks to animals, no one listens. And that's the opportunity for all of us, is simply to be in our heart, to do more listening, feeling, receiving. What are you receiving with this little bit of citrine?
I just feel the abundance of prosperity. Abundance and prosperity is enormous within, and being clear that that is a natural part of us to prosper.
Okay, so tell us about your book now. How long is it, if it's okay? That's a very Western quantitative thing. But is it 300 pages? Is it 500? Does it depend on which version you get online? It's this physical, it's that. Will it be physical?
268. And that's funny you asked me that question, because so I had an editor, which and she was a New York editor. She was tough on me. So it was about 75, and then she asked me a couple of questions, and it grew to 113,000. And she came back and she said, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" I can't do her accent, but she was like, "Are you serious?" She said, "You're going to have to just cull that." And so I did. I had to go through and cull it. But
and what was the final page count again?
268, and it's 64,000 words. So
that's great. Way to go for culling it.
Yeah, it was hard. There were lots of stories, because that's the thing. It's like when you clear out with healing some of the conditioning that keep you stuck in the everyday. Everybody has so many gifts, and there's so many tricks. You can clear water, you can use your heart for all sorts of amazing things. You can, you can be in a
Parking
queue.
spaces, bar stools.
Yeah, parking
I'm
spaces is a
being
bit 101. No, no, no. I do like I do this thing whenever I'm in a public space. I just like do the care, bear, love, and queues move faster, and people start smiling. And on planes, when babies are crying, instead of sitting there going, "Arr," I actually do this thing. I connect with the baby and I just send it love, and literally it's a couple of minutes and the baby will settle. Yeah, whenever I'm in a traffic jam, I'll like, send love to everyone in their cars. But everybody has these, everyone has these gifts, and when they start to practice them, even breathing, like you can do so much with breath. You can jump into ice, or So that is the cool thing, and so I wanted to put all of those into the book, and I was allowed to put some of them.
So how about walking into a store and there's no customers, but quickly 15 people come in and start populating the store and start shopping and buying there. I knew someone who that would happen to all the time. And then I think that's actually stuck with me a little bit. Okay, tell us about manifesting, how slower is faster, big energy. Let's keep you talking about your book. Those are just a few of the little mini sub-chapters, sub-points. Tell us about some of this again. Big energy. What's that?
So big energy is just thinking beyond. It was actually just appreciating what's there, and it's the expanded version, because you have to remember that like our universe is full of some pretty amazing things, and there's not a single thing that we can imagine which can't occur. Like if you think about what we have created with our consciousness as human beings, it's just, I mean, I'm a bit of a fan of cryptocurrency. And one of the, like a few, 10 years ago, Bitcoin didn't exist. And you do have to have a lot of imagination, particularly some of the schemes that I've invested in. You have to have a lot of imagination to actually believe that that is true. But there are so many feats that we can do. So it's just pushing ourselves beyond our little gate, and saying, this is what I'm passionate about, and this is who I can help, and this is what I want to bring through in a very big way, rather than just, okay, right, I might set up this business, or I might do this little program, or you know we're full of limitations until we challenge those limitations.
I like that. So inspiration, awe, letting go, allowing, possibility, positivity, practice. Talk to us about, again, cultivating what we've already got within. Talk to us about how you get in there and help a person sort of realign so they understand it's not so much about gaining or losing anything, it's just shifting to grow.
Yeah, I think so it's this honoring the sacred, and honoring silence, and making regular silence, slow silence, part of your day. And for some people, that is quite daunting. Like a lot of people don't even like to be alone, and they freak out when they're on their own. And if you take your phone off them, or if you don't have your iPhone for a day, or don't have your smartphone for a day, that can be really quite uncomfortable for people. Actually, probably I'd find it uncomfortable as well. But I think that the more you can meditate, so I recommend about at least 2 hours a day if you want to do something different, because your everyday thinking is what you're getting now. So if you have some big goals, all of us have to shift out of our everyday, and the only way you can do that is by spending a lot of time in meditation. Self-hypnosis, which is more, any meditation that's got a goal is actually self-hypnosis. There's very little true meditation. We're just floating. Even transcendental meditation has a mantra, which is pulling you into a goal, which is bringing you into a stream of consciousness. So, but that is so important. You can do that with, walking. You don't have to do it just with your eyes closed, but with your eyes closed, because you're cutting out that sensory data, like 90% of it. 10 million bits of the 11 million bits, you're actually forced into being with slower brainwaves. So however you do that, you just as long as you make sure every day in your everyday that you're practicing some consciousness. And 2 hours is a lot less than you think. I think most people would spend 2 to 5 hours on their smartphones, just looking at things or buying things or answering their emails. So this is, yeah, however you break it up, it's just important that it's in the everyday.
And
it's
for those,
important that you go theta, as I say,
exactly.
go theta.
For those watching and they want to pick a chair, the only place I recommend not ever doing meditation is where you sleep. I would lie on the floor, pick a different chair, a chaise sort of lounger outside on a porch or patio if you happen to be in a warm climate. But if you are finding the part of you that unfortunately rules the roost, the ego, the thinking, the rejecting, the reacting side of you, and you're like, well, I'll get to it next week, and 2 months go by and you never got to it, and you're looking for an excuse to actually just break through, get to your heart and do a little meditation, and you still have to have the noise. You're the type that has the fan on at night. You play music or it's always a TV on in the background while you're working. It's just what you do to saturate so you don't open up. We suppress all the time. I do have a recommendation for one song by Radiohead called Lotus Flower. I think it's 5 minutes exactly. Put it on repeat. And I'm sorry to mention using a song, but you can get off the song very quickly. But the repetition will make up for the fact that we put noise into the picture. It's a beautiful song. But play that over and over again and sort of watch the reality dissolve. Whether you do it with a mantra, a goal in mind, words. You've picked up something from her June 7th book, Manifestors Unite. She's probably got some recommendations in there on how to do this. But you can use that when you shut your eyes. And if you need to put your hand out, ask the universe to be in your hand, put your hand on your heart, give it a go. But let's get a couple suggestions on where can people consider meditating that's either unusual. Where do they lie down? Do they sit cross-legged? There's a lot of impressions. There's certainly a lot of people in our audience have been around the block. They've been meditating maybe for 20 years and so on. But just give us a few tips that we can incorporate in, or something new. Aroma, remember this or that. What can we do?
I think most people who've been meditating for a while aren't using audio or aren't being guided. So if you're guiding yourself, then that is hugely more powerful than accessing other people. Even songs or beats, you've got to mix them up with you doing the work. It's really important that you do the work. What I always do, which is a little bit different, and it uses intention. So that's the rational mind. I say, I give my purpose. I'm very specific about what I'm doing. So if I'm just going to float, I'll be like, okay, I set my intent to do my work with my deepest levels of consciousness, and I'm just going to surrender and enjoy, and then I'll go into, sometimes I need a prompt to get me down to, shut out the conscious, but that intent, when you use intent at the beginning of your meditation, will pretty much give you that access. So
give it to us one more time slowly. So if someone's actually writing down the opening phrases here, what is it again?
So this is a hypnosis trick, but it uses the whole of your mind. So first, because our conscious mind is rational, so we set the intent. Once you set an intent, pretty much then your subconscious will listen. So I would say I set my intent to do my work now with the deepest levels of my consciousness and using all of my mind, my body, my spirit, something like that.
That's beautiful. I think that's very valuable for folks.
And then I like to use, I'm just going to give you a tip because some people really struggle. And if you've got any Gemini traits, Geminis really struggle with quieting the mind. And I know I have a couple of Gemini.
Pisces here. Still split, still two.
Yeah. So there's this technique that you can use that is really, you set your intent. And I didn't add there that if you've got a purpose, put your purpose into that intent. So if you are wanting to work on the manifestation, put it into that intent. And then I like to take 3 deep breaths where I breathe in. So I breathe in and then I blow up my nose.
Can we do a healing one? Can we circle back? Can you pretend that you needed healing right now? And let's not pretend. Let's just do it. Let's
I do
have
need
you do one out loud. I set my intent to do my healing work now with the deepest level of my consciousness. Add in more. Take us through the breathing exercises. I think this is very valuable for folks to have this imprint on them and give them a fighting chance to go water their plants, sit with a cup of tea, and sit in their corner on the floor with their pooch, take a nap. Dogs and cats will come right over, and your loved fluffy ones will, your fur babies will come right over, feeling a expansion of your energy and cuddle up next to you. It's an incredible experience. But start from scratch. Let's make this a healing moment. And I'm going to add a little extra with an angel photo, because I'm going to always suggest you can go to the website, pick up one photo, watch it change colors one day on you, keep it on your iPhone. One reason to have the iPhone and not toss it. But here's Joy. Why don't you, only private to you, feel a little extra energy from Joy backing you up for some extra healing if you want to see pink light in the air around you as well. Just a little CARMELLE RILEY in New Zealand celebration going on. And now take us through breathing, the words, setting the intent, tapping the consciousness to tap the consciousness and the unconsciousness to tap the greater universal love in the moment.
Okay. So first you'd have a chair that's comfortable. You're not going to be driving or doing anything that requires your presence. And I like to have an eye mask. If you've got an eye mask, it's going to deepen it. And so just set your intent, and in this case, set your intent to do your work now, to allow more love, to give more love, to heal your body, or to send healing to another person. And just coming in to your heart space, close your eyes. And just close your eyes. And just feel within yourself the power of your intention, and access the deepest levels of your consciousness. So I'd like to invite you just to take 3 breaths, deep breaths, where you breathe in through your mouth, like this, breathing in, and breathe out really slow. All the daily, keep going, keep going, keep going. Breathing in, deep from Papatōnaku, Mother Earth. Breathing out all the tension. One more, breathing in calm, relaxation. And breathing out all the tension. And just allow yourself to come deeply into your heart. If you want to place your hand on the left area of your chest where your heart is, you can do that now. And just imagine, if you can, yourself as a stream of consciousness or light that starts in your heart. Just imagine that consciousness, a stream, a river, a ray, a beam, you choose, coloured, or just the sense of that light. and just slowly move your light down deeply into the earth. Papatunaku. Just holding there. I reach for the tone of our earth. And anchoring in Papatunaku, bring the light through to your feet, into the soles, into your heels, through into your ankles, to your knees, through into your haunches, into your root, up into your back, through your spinal cord, into your solar plexus, back through your heart, to your throat, coming into your head. Feel in to the area between your brows and just circle here, just around, circle your light around and around and around, and coming into the crown. Circle the light, your light, and then just allow yourself to just leave your body. So move up, leave your body, leave the space, go up, past physical earth, and the realms, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planet. Go up, come onto the plug of our university kuri, and just push through, push into the layers of liquid light, push and push. And as you push, just allow everything to leave you. Allow everything to leave you and move and come into that area of tingly white light. As you feel yourself surrounded by that light, just move into the space as if you are consciousness itself. And here you can do your work. So send your healing to your body. Send your healing to anyone you love who needs your light and your love and your compassion. Send your healing to any place on earth. Let's just bring in Syria right now and any other place where people are hurting. Just send love wherever it needs to go and receive love. So in this place where we are just consciousness and part of the great consciousness itself, we can do our work whenever we choose. I'm just going to program and compound that for you. Just allow this to be part of who you are. Allow yourself to come back in this space anytime. And just bundle it up and take it down back into your heart. Center in your heart. Center in your knowing of who you really are, surrounded by those who walk behind you and ahead of you. And just when you're ready, slowly you can come back to the awakened world by opening your eyes and joining us back here.
Well, I have to say that was beautiful, and I hope people go back and play this, put it on the system, however, and listen and give it another go. And I have to say that partway through, I've had some sore muscles in an arm, and as we got maybe 2/3 of the way through, I couldn't believe the amount of heat and actual pain in that area flared, and I could feel it. And that was the most interesting. I'm not a big fan of the word phenomena, but it was absolutely real to me. I became very aware of how hurt that area is still.
Mm.
And most of the time, depending on where I am in my energy during the day, it could be, you it's not ignoring it, but it's send it love, move forward, or you're icing it, or you're doing things to help send positive energy, showers, cold, and so on. So those came very roaring back right in the middle of that, which was just incredible.
We can do so much. I think that that's what the message really is. All of us, and not just for ourselves, but if you have people in your circle, this is for your listeners. I do so much work for people without them knowing, and we can all do this. Like if we just hold, particularly with healing. I mean, you can. If you just connect with a person who you love who is dealing with a significant health issue, open your heart. If you want to do that process just to slow yourself down, that's all that does, that practice. It just slows you into theta, slows you into, your deep levels of consciousness. But you literally open your heart and you just bring this person into your awareness, and you envisage them, imagine them telling you they are healed. And however that vision comes, if you can bring in the smells, that's amazing. What are you smelling in the environment where they're telling you that they are healed, whether they've overcome this complaint that's troubled them or disease or dis-ease. What are they wearing? What's on your feet? What's on their feet? What are the words that you say to each other? Just that alone, consistently, particularly at bedtime, as you go to sleep, you are putting out into the quantum field, which is cooperative, and it's continuously cooperative. We've got to remember that. It's only our little bits that are not cooperative. But the universe, everything, the field is continuously cooperating, sending and sharing and shifting and moving, and expanding and contracting. And it's only our separation from that isn't the cooperative part. So yeah, bring you, rather than feel worry or, I've got a friend who's, been diagnosed and sent home to die with cancer. And I've had to just consistently elevate my own view of her journey, and where, to see her in her wellness, whatever shape that takes, in the physical or the non-physical. But we can all do this, rather than worry or feel sad or grief that someone has this particular trouble. We can send our aroha, our love, into their wellness. And I think that we have so many skills, but we just don't even realize.
So on another show in this series, another healer suggested even an alternative, which is sending all that love to the ancestral family of the person, or angels or guides of that person who will know how to distribute it just the right way. And I thought that was also a deep, I've never heard that reflected anywhere. We'll do a shout out to Teresa without an H, Shantz, Shantz, who's host of Enthusiastically Spiritual. Listen Notes puts her at 0.5% for a rating, which is almost perfection. Anyhow, so she had such a take on it that was incredible. So for someone out there wanting to send positive vibes, they're maybe seeking change for another. Maybe they're just thinking they're offering healing or love or support to another. How do they know when they're coming from the heart versus the brain? Is that simply a function of time where it's obvious? Am I asking, how do I know a good cup of coffee is a good cup of coffee? How does someone start to go down the path of acknowledging all the flows and energies? Half the time we're up here, like the breathing exercise. 2 hours can go by and you're like, oh my God, Carmel told me I'm supposed to take a breath, and I just did everything but take a breath. I cleaned my kitchen. I started paying attention to my dog. I wanted to avoid the most basic task of taking a breath, oneness with the universe, oneness with myself, my higher self. Talk to us about those dynamics, the resistance. An hour went by. Suddenly I went to clean my garage. I love that example. You've put that off for 2 years. It's on your absolutely do not do list. And it's what you talk about. I need to get to it, to every neighbor, your friends. Oh, I'm going to clean my garage this weekend. You've said that for 2 years. And suddenly you're cleaning your garage because the one place you don't want to go is your inner treasure, your amazingness here. Talk to us about how to navigate the being human versus the being.
I think for me, it's just like if you can, and it is hard to do this, but you know when you're in your heart, you just know. It's a sensory. I think the only thing that you can add to that is if you're whatever your trick is, because it differs for all of us. You can call up angels and boom, there they are. They're all like sparkling around.
If you want to see some balls of light around me, and I offer the audience this as well, and also go back to the crystal citrine, put your hand out, give yourself permission. Here are some of my tips, but I'm asking Carmelle to give us some of her tips, either that she uses, or if her best friend called and said, I need help, I'm having trouble with letting go on this. But call in your higher self. You have a higher, what do you think half your intuition's been the whole time? Call in your guides, your angels, your ancestral lineage. Give yourself a break and start laughing. Whatever you're trying to do, smelling the sage, catching the scent of sage wafted as smoke through 2 screens, feeling the citrine, doing this exercise, or seeing a ball of light go by Michael in this video, or behind Carmelle right now. Maybe only you are seeing it. Maybe it was really in the video. It doesn't really matter. And maybe you're watching this 2 years from now. It doesn't matter also. The time and space thing, just get over it. You've got enough examples where
I love that. Just get over it.
Just get over it. And I'm probably saying, so tell us about getting over it. Telling us about how, yes, it's a really big deal, but yes, it's not a big deal, but yes, it's a big deal, but yes, it's not a big deal. Help us take a breath right now.
I don't know if anyone watches my shorts on YouTube. I think it's really concerns my teenage. Well, there's only one teenager left, but my young adult children. Because I dance. I've decided that dancing meditations are the best ways to shake it up. And I chose a song which is really popular with young people at the moment. It's a drum and bass. New Zealanders love drum and bass. We love it. We're obsessed with it. And its dimension and sub focus is Ready to Fly. And I did my dance. Whenever I dance, the dog, and dogs love to dance. Like if you dance, your dog will dance. Even your cats, if you hold them, they love to dance as well. They get in, they enjoy it. But if I dance, dog goes crazy. She starts jumping up and down. Anyway, we did this particular 15-second, and I know I offended so many drum and bass people because they were like, what the hell? And I was like, yeah. But that's one, the movement thing, I think it's really come to me as a, just like shaking it up. And I think that's why TikTok is a sensation. There's a part of us that wants to dance barefoot, under the moon, naked if you choose. And if you do a little dancing meditation again, your intent, your goal, or just nothing, just I want to feel good, and just shake it. And that is a way where you will subvert your own thinking, subvert your own faulty thinking, fear, uncertainty, lack, and doubt, and just come into this naturally healed and creative space.
In your Instagram account, it's instagram.com/super manifestar with an AR, right? It's different. So it's instagram.com/super manifestor, but it's star at the end, not an E, not an O. Star is in star in the sky. So check out her shorts there, or her profile, her account. Okay. What else can you tell us about the book? Again, freedom, intention, letting go, setting your intent. Tell us about maybe the structure of the book. Is it more broader at the beginning, or do you take us step by step through a lot of topics?
The book is sequential. It's if you started at a place of coming into your awakening, and whether that was because you had so much conflict in your life, or because you have a significant dis-ease, or because you are really struggling with drug and addiction. Those are the main reasons why people, their life, they're inviting through their experience such density of challenge that they're literally forced into the universal. So it basically walks you from the point of being unconscious right through the point where you can claim, I like to say, all of your divinity whenever you're conscious. But it goes through all the spaces. So it's firstly around the realization of that this is you are part of the universe, and that the universe is your friend, and that you're never alone. And then it takes you into taking radical responsibility, brings you into your heart, and then walks you through the mind and what it is to be super conscious, which is to use the whole of your mind, and then kind of just takes you into that practice. How do you practice your consciousness? How do you dance and through your, how do you take active meditations? I do work a bit with a lot with cosmology, which is different to astrology because it embraces your place on the earth and your night sky, your morning sky. So down here, we have to translate astrology because we don't see the North Star, Polaris, the North Pole. We don't see the Pole Star at all. We have the Milky Way. And when the zodiac year starts on the 21st of March, it's not spring, it's fall or autumn here. So it has a bit of that. So again, but some of the practices, it's different. If you're a fire sign, or if you've got fire elements, fire, smudging, bonfires. If you're a water person, bathing in water. Yeah, Pisces, if you want to calm your mind ever, go into the river, swim down the river, and you'll instantly become settled. Air signs need a lot of, I think air signs struggle the most to still because there's so much movement in your thoughts. It's just, you're so open to, and so particularly if it's the mutable, so I talk quite a lot about that, and then dream time, because I really passionately believe if you want to be one with your consciousness and one with the consciousness of everything, honoring your dream time, honoring your space of creation is just absolutely so important. Yeah. So that it does follow a sequence, but it honors each person, because that's so important to me. I constantly see people's higher selves.
Oh, nice.
And yeah. And you asked me a question about how do you know that you're in the zone? Well, in the zone because it's the most light you can be, and light, if it's really light, tingles. So my nose tingles like Tabitha the Witch. Sometimes my tongue. That's how I know. And most people know if you hit theta, some part of you tingles, if not all of you. So the most light you can be, the most love you can feel without any judgment, and the most intelligent. Those are the three ways that you know that you're operating heart, mind, coherence.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. And I'm a little more loosey-goosey at times. So I'm going to try to restate that a little for folks, in that picture in your 20s, your 30s, your teens, you were on a beach somewhere, you lived near the water, you had a time in life, you were carefree, you were relaxed. It could have been just the vacation from 5 years ago. You haven't been on a vacation since, but you remember how relaxing it is. It wasn't the setting necessarily, it was you letting go. You never lost a step. And so if you want to picture some swagger where you had it all, you were relaxed, you were so slow walking in the Caribbean that your hips actually went out an extra few inches each direction. Man or woman, whatever, it's a power walk. And whenever you're letting go, you'll notice that you fall into that amazingness that's you. You might actually get away from the TV. You might actually put on music. You're finding miniature ways, micro ways to elevate. You light a candle safely in a tea light and appreciate that you set your intent with the candle. You hum a little. You make an extra, you brew up something, a tea, just for the moment, to be one with your feelings and your heart. So it's a little bit of the Jedi thing and everything else. But what I'm suggesting is people can call that in. And I have a feeling that her book is going to help you with that, appreciating that there's work to be done, but no work in letting go and getting away from what's taking up our time during the day. The iPhone, we're not saying get rid of the iPhone or toss it necessarily. If you missed it, she tossed her iPhone earlier to make the point. We wish the iPhone well, but it is to call the time out and create moments for yourself to breathe and relax and to see what happens. How about that? It's inviting in the universe, all the energies that are beyond our human thinking to do their jobs and to help us grow. And that invitation is incredible. So tell us about that invitation. Tell us about positivity, possibility, practice. Let's do a lot of P's. Tell us about how we can cultivate. You have a lot of chapters. I mean, I was just looking at, literally there's like 90 or 120 incredible bullets in your table of contents that it's the roadmap to get from here to here and to really begin, to roll up your sleeves and get moving. But we might be talking about stillness as well. Talk to us about the cultivating. Are there a couple of exercises specifically you want to bring in? A couple of get away from this, get away from that, try this. Let us know what's something put something out there for us.
So I think something that's really, really helpful, because again, it's the practical. Like, I think that that, and maybe this is one of the hardest things that when you do get a little bit of consciousness and things start to, you kind of get that amazing sense of awe that you've developed by, finally opening up to the wider who is you. Surrender is one of the biggest challenges. So I like to think that, and this, I really struggle with the surrender. Like I always, I have a list of goals and I want them all to be happening right now. And most of us are like, and then we put ourselves off. So I think waiting for the signs, that pause, that silence to wait rather than rushing in. So, and if we all do this a bit more, if we pause before we rush in, that's when the magic happens. I think that, but that's hard, because if you're manifesting something, and that might be, having good health because you've had pain, and you're doing your work, you're wanting it to happen like that, and often it's going to happen in a way that you can't understand is going to happen. It'll be through reading something or somebody ringing you and say, try this, or inviting you. So it's that waiting. Really important with wealth generation, if that is a mission. And a lot of people that I work with are really, and this has been a mess. We've got Uranus and Taurus. Last time we had this cycle, we had the Great Depression. There are some significant issues around wealth or lack of, and security, which Taurus rules, security. And for us, security is having money. Most of us, it's having more and more and more money, more and more things. We feel secure when we're, in some kind of a castle with, stores of gold around us, then we're secure. So if that is, you have to wait for those signs, and you cannot think about them. And I think that is really important, to that pause, and then that surrender. The surrender that you need to know how it's going to happen, and just allow more. Allow the work to happen for you. Allow people to come in and make the suggestions. That pause always, I think, is a place that we can work on. Yeah.
I like it. So culturally, New Zealand, can you share with us a concept that we're not normally going to know about unless we went to New Zealand and we were lucky enough to meet somebody who could show us the concept? What is something there that is part of all this that is either a practice, a concept, but give us some of the language, give us some of the explanation behind it. Again, the lands, Dreamtime, we've talked about the equivalent of mana, that maybe we can mention, and I always mispronounce everything, and I mispronounced it before the show. Morty. Thank you.
Yeah.
Which is like mana, life force, but talk to us about something like that.
Oh, Modi, sorry.
Modi, that's it.
Yeah, Modi is life force energy, which is all of everything alive, and again, it's like our consciousness. So consciousness is fast, and we can't see it or hear it, and that's what's waiting to manifest. Consciousness is slow, and it's inanimate. And then there's us with our state of consciousness, which keeps us in a fused state of reality. So Modi's the same. It's the energy, or the chi, or the people describe it as life force energy, but it exists in everything. So the practice, I was just trying to think something that was culturally significant, which is, and again, it comes into that pause. So what we have this practice of karakia, and that is like a prayer, but it's also like an invocation. And when you pause and make the karakia at the beginning, you set the intention, and that can, just by the resonance of the words, the combination of the words, that brings through a modi, an energy, and that energy can be ancestral, it can be of the land, it can be of the stars, it can be specific. Each region and each tribe has different karakia, but so you set the karakia at the beginning, and then you set one at the end. And what it does is it just seals that moment in time. It seals the sacredness or the tapuness of that. And that's it's not just our indigenous tribes that use it here, but I like to think, we lived in Dubai, and they had the call to prayer, and it was an imam up in a tower, and they had a loudspeaker, and they would all do it at the same time, and so it was quite confronting. But the thing that if you look beyond the physical with that, is 5 times a day you are called to revere Allah, or the sense of the universal, if you want to read it that way. And you fall to your knees, and you are present with the divine. It's the same thing. It's like saying, hey, this is our nature. Our true nature is to be as universal as we are physical. So why do we not take this time?
Shinto shrines in Asia or Japan and so on have tories, and I think tories, the arches, are in maybe 13 or 14 countries in Asia. I had a torii 2 houses ago up in Austin. It's right now taken apart in a garage, and I'd seen Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai, and a little voice had said, why don't you look into the torii? And I got one designed, and I put it in the backyard. I used it for clients that I just thought needed extra help letting go. They would sit on a Japanese stool, but if you walk through it, you can feel the energy in the gate. Looks like a football goal, American football, or an H with the bar a little higher, but the curve at the top. So very beautiful. You could feel the energy, even the handyman taking it down before we moved to another place. We're walking through saying, I can feel the energy. I feel lighter. And that's the role of it. Is sometimes you've seen photographs of these temples or special places, sacred grounds in Japan, where there's 50 of them. You're to walk through, and it's to take off all the societal stress you're thinking, peel it back like an onion, so it's just your pureness when you walk onto the sacred ground. So I needed to mention that only because even the act of a cup of tea and appreciating and allowing and surrender, you can term it the way you need to term it. If in a way you're not losing anything, because it's not about losing or gaining, it's shifting to your heart, and it's surrendering the societal aspects for a little while. Trust me, it's all going to come back. If you're enlightened even for an hour, there's a few folks walking around saying they're enlightened. Odds are they've got just as much thinking as the rest of us, and they're just on a bigger detour. They don't know it yet. Yeah. So that's the opportunity in each moment, is to let go. And I think Carmel has mentions so many ways to come in and access it, and through nature and so on. So
I
tell
wanted
us,
to add just, can I add just
please.
one little more? Because I know I threw my iPhone, but one of, he was actually a young boy, and I was interviewing a beautiful Māori healer who lived a couple of hours from here, who works with really troubled youth. And he suggested to his elder, he was like, your phone is a wand. So I just want to add that if you use your iPhone or your smartphone consciously, so rather than just pick it up and, like if you say, right, I am going to be really deliberate, you can use it for huge healing. Because if you're sharing a video, you're pouring your intent, you're saying, this is the last video that I'm sharing. What is the message that I'm sharing with my audience? Who are the people that are receiving this, and where are their emotions, where is their heart at? Like, that is a massive connector there. That is like it's a global one. It is, but it's that consciousness of it, that pause before you just like, flick flick through thinking, and then you get into that, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that, and look at that, that is not conscious. Consciousness is using your phone and saying, or your device, we put our hands up where we've held our intention to honor the people that are listening, and to each other, and to all of the forces that bring us as universal souls.
So are you ready to do that right now? How about Audrey Hepburn, a photo of her on my iPhone? Let's have you circle down and be where you're already at and allow. But if you want, you can put your hand out, feel her energy while you're connecting with her as a whole. People can also get a whoosh down their back. I'm going to ask that every audience member witnessing this, participating, whatever you want to call it, they can allow for her historical photo to wink, smile, nod, shoulder waggle. Let a static photo that we all know with limits up here cannot possibly move, but hundreds and hundreds of people have gotten a wink, a smile, a nod. So we're going to juggle many balls at once, because the ego is like in a little biplane. Your heart's like an F-16 Falcon jet, if I got that right. And so this gets tired quickly, calls it quits, gives up quickly. It can only block one or two of these balls we're going to juggle. So you could put your hand out and feel. You'll look at her, let her move in the photo, ask for a whoosh down the back. If you want to feel her hand on your shoulder on top of that, ask her a simple question. The simplest question I can think of is, what do I need to know in life right now?
I was just
Oh, yay. We got to see him in the background earlier.
Yeah, yes, but they're also both cats, Burmese cats, are in here as well. They've just been circling around the whole time. So, but particularly that little Maya, she just came right over when you
Oh,
were
I love
talking.
it. So here's Audrey. Let her do her thing. And
Wow.
I'll add a couple more balls in the air for folks, and they can mute me later and replay this a bunch of times. But catch a French perfume in the air that's wonderful, or the scent of a New Zealand beach, a Maui, Hawaii beach. Hear her just laugh and light up your soul. Audrey Hepburn, Angel. And if you want to even see her aura and colors around her figure, or it may be that you're trying so hard that you actually notice Carmelle's aura and light around her by accident. Because there's no try. It's your heart already knows what to do, and it's what will you really allow for right now. Carmelle, do you have a message you'd like to relay? Audrey said something that you'd want to say out loud.
There was just, I think that it's the deepening into our hearts, and I really sense that. And when you were speaking on this, I went into the space with everyone who was listening and who hears this, and I really just felt this huge connection that it was palpable across the screens and out into all the screens, of that coming into your heart space and really honoring who you are, and honoring the beauty within.
And that's wonderful. She's smiling more to me, which is the first time I've seen her smile this way. No teeth, but just it's a bigger and bigger smile, and I love it. I'm going to pull back, and I'll bring in Charlotte. Blue ball light, you've met her before. Everybody's favorite school teacher from childhood with words meant to help us expand. So if it's third form, Mrs. Johnson, third grade in America, Mrs. Johansson, think of Charlotte as a teacher. And if you'd like to catch a particular flower smell that is not just from outdoors right now, it's something that maybe is a different time of year or you haven't had in a while, ask for that smell, Carmel, allow. And if you could get a few words for all of us from her, from Charlotte.
Charlotte says, be strong, be sure of yourself, and know you are loved.
Nice. Here's another angel who's light waves of energy and water, my guardian angel. She's a professor, but very soft-spoken. Like out of the Disney movie Moana, oceany Pacific princess. Call her just Min is good enough, like Minnesota. And is there a cultural term she wants to mention that you'll know, but will need explanation on and an understanding?
It's really interesting because what I got was treading lightly and treading in. So then I just thought of all our feet walking on the earth as we all walk together and separately. And we are never without our tribe. And that placing of our feet barefooted onto papa tōnoku, because I think min is papa tōnoku. That tread lightly, tread in joy.
I have a few more for you. So Native American chiefs, dull knife, wisdom with some humor. Very easy, very down to earth, unconditional love, spirit guide. If you'd like to receive and catch a sacred smell of some sort.
Do you know what song just came through?
What?
I'm too sexy for my shirt. It's just like, because it's a sad song. They just shirt's gonna leave me.
Here, I'll put them up one more time. If there's anything else, grab just one more thing. I love that.
Oh, he's so beautiful, isn't he? Sandalwood comes through with this too sexy for the shirt.
I love it. And then red shirt is like the gentlest mom in the world. I'm not giving him a manly description, but he's compassion. He's so soft-spoken to the point of a matter. So anybody going through a health crisis, divorce, job loss, they always gravitate to him. Relationship issues or just struggling. He's so sweet. You look at red shirt and his face is just, he's there to set you at ease and talk to the heart of the matter. And what did you get, Carmel?
I went somewhere. I just went somewhere that was just, I don't know if I drifted with him. He just took us, I think it's that just allowing really with that we, I drifted. I went into another galaxy.
That's okay. Geronimo, action, dry wit, lightning bolt, humor, Marine Corps drill sergeant, but like the Nike bumper sticker, just do it. The first two are proper yes, no, formal. Geronimo's not. He's slang, yeah, duh, you already know the answer. So Geronimo action, young Geronimo here. Why don't we get one mantra from him, or in your language, a key word that we've not brought up yet? He can do all languages, all dialects. He'll know exactly what he wants to tell us right now.
I get etu, and etu means stand up.
Oh!
Counted.
Okay, so there are two words I'd like to ask you to spell. Irtu, is it I-R-T-U? No.
Etu. Etu.
Oh, A2. Okay.
Capital E, which is so Māori has the same pronunciation as Spanish and Latin, and we roll the R's. So is E, tu is stand up. Tu. Stand up and be counted.
I took 7 years of Latin, but you'd never know it right this second. Okay, and the other one was Modi, I think it was. You talked about that healer.
Yeah.
Can
Mauri. Modi.
It is the word that I thought it was. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's just
But it's very close
the
to Māori. Māori is, the name for our Indigenous people.
I'm the slowest tool on the turnip truck to make fun of it. Or the sharpest turnip in the tool shed to mix my metaphors.
The brightest cabbage in the cabbage.
Exactly. So somebody who had been trained, I got a lot of help 10 or 11 years ago from a lot of different people I owe big thanks to just calm me down, because I'm like, what's happening? And I grabbed every intuitive by the lapels, practically shook and said, what's going on? How can there be more than our thinking? And they helped me. But there's this one shaman-like figure who, when I was at his house, he had spent time in Australia, had gotten permission to hang with the indigenous crowd and learn some things. And he had a lot of those books that are much more archaeology or sociology, I don't have the right word, cultural books on dreamtime and indigenous this. So the indexes were filled with hundreds and hundreds of specialized words. And so at one point, I'm beginning my journey, and he's having me pick out one word that jumps out at me from the indexes of these various thick, heavy, very expensive books that you cannot really get in America or even on Amazon. They're very cultural. They're going to be in the only way I know how to say it is art history, the importance of art history and the analysis that goes on these paintings from hundreds or thousands of years ago or whenever, or like cave drawing analysis books. I have one, rock art up there. That's a famous one. Rock Art of the Dreamtime. But so these are very serious, important books. And he has me pouring through the indexes. Mike, what's the one word jumping out at you? And very first word I saw was Rory, R-O-R-I, Rory. And he kept bringing more choices I can choose something else. And I kept going back to that word. And the definition of it is the crystal that the healing man, the clever man uses. Sometimes in Australia, you'll see when he's doing a healing, pulling stones out of the person, which is the illness. And it's the Rory is the crystals, the healing stones, the little pouch, the personal tools of the clever man. And I've never forgotten that. And I had to mention it only because it's tangentially related to the conversation today.
But also, if you think about the Rory is in your, what are they called? The paizeta, I can't remember the name. The crystals that are around your pineal gland that are activated when you are, when you're getting your Kundalini flame up, or when you're experiencing that real shift in your consciousness and your pineal gland opens and you become exposed to all those other dimensions. So that is not just an external, but we all have that in our pineal in here and there.
So with that, I was going to give you older Geronimo because he's very much a medicine man in the next shot. And with that, we're all healers on our healing journey. And so there was a point to the artistic moving around here in the conversation. Let's let older Geronimo do his thing and give us an insight how we're all on the healing journey and where we can find an external Rory. So here's older Geronimo. And ask for a blessing. I think we could all use 3 waves of light and healing, not just Apache style. He works closely with angels, so bigger. He's plenty, and I'm not trying to cut this any which way, but lots of love and light, and 3 waves, if we can breathe on it as well, all of us. and allow for extra healing, whatever our situations are, health or just life, societal situations, or just man versus man. We beat ourselves up. We don't give ourselves a break, and we don't allow more. So this is just allowing more. And then he's going to have a very snarky comment for you that's fun for us all to hear. What'd you get?
There is more. Wait, there is more.
Okay.
Never finished.
2 more. I know Raphael had a very big place for your daughter. You talked about your daughter, Raphael, at one point. That is in the book, is it not?
I don't know where. I don't know if she is.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I think maybe we discussed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's one
Okay.
she has 2 angel wings. She has one, Rafaela is her name, and her other name is Kahurangi, which
There we
is
go.
the hawks, or the big overarching cloak. Yeah, the hawk that flies through the sky.
So I'm bringing you 4 archangels: Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, Uriel. They're in this photo. And if you want to catch a beautiful scent that's a healing scent that takes you definitely somewhere, and recharge your battery, because you spent some time with us and we really appreciate your time. Okay. Good.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
Good. One last one. Sai Baba from India, if you would allow for the greatest India incense, jungles, and then there's a tiger. That's the one that's with the Divine Mother. And you don't have to be from India to appreciate this, but what I am suggesting is maybe hear the roar of a tiger on the air from your jungle behind you. And it's a friendly tiger. He's just like Geronimo. Action, 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 action. And if I didn't say the word action, action. Very supportive. But Sai Baba is a miracle worker. He intersects Hinduism. I'm going to mess all this up for the audience, but Buddhism, Islam, and the first one that I mentioned. So if you need a short way, just think compassion, no limits, possibility, the universe, and absolutely bring it in. But this is another photograph for the viewer to let that face move. Pause it, so with my one hand holding the photograph, it's not going to be perfectly still. But if you'll allow for this, let him wink, smile, nod his chin. And then if you could, Carmel, ask for the works, as we say in America, when you order a sandwich with the works, they put everything on it. I love American metaphors. They're unlimited. We have the most ridiculous metaphors of all time. That's all we talk about, or we use those. There's another word for it, idioms or something. We use those all the time in everything we say. But ask for the kit and caboodle. Ask for the works. Feel a whoosh of unbelievable proportions, like you just got twirled on the dance floor. And does Sai Baba, this is your last one, so does Sai Baba have words of advice for us all?
Sai Baba says to us that we should never give up on our faith. We should never give up on our light. That's what he says through, as I hear it. Never give up. Never give up the fight.
Very good. Well, you've come a super long way, and you've got a beautiful foundation now that you've shared with us today, so we're very appreciative of that. Are there a couple more directions you would want to take us? We know that everything is energy. You can do a call to action up here, harnessing what's here, harnessing what's here. You're showing us how to do that in your June book that's coming out. Tell us the title of the book. Tell us, how is someone going to purchase your book? Can they pre-order it? If I go to Amazon and look you up, Carmelle, Carmelle, Riley, Riley, if I look this up, how can I pre-purchase it? How do I purchase it? How do I get your book? And I can promise folks it should be very interesting, very good.
So it's Super Manifestor, Manifest the Secret in You. And I have a little email list, which will be the way that people connect. And the cool thing about that is that you get that activation in an audio for 25 minutes. So it goes deeply into the roadmap for you to continue in activating that divinity within you. So all you have to do is press the little block on the funnel, and it's mail at manifestorsunite.com. So it's the Manifestors Unite with mail at the front. And that basically just puts you in the list where I will continue to nurture you with little tips and with little little encouragements to continue in your faith and your divinity.
And so if people just go to your website as well, they'll find that. How to sign up? No,
that's a separate. That's a separate little distribution list that I'm doing just for the book, because as you know, with Amazon, you've got to be specific in your clientele and the people that you're reaching in terms of just that book. So it's a little distribution.
Mail, MAIL, and I'll have it in the writing below the video, .manifestorsunitehub.com. No hub.
Yeah. Hub.com.
Hub.com. So I'm gonna say it one more time and then we're gonna move on. Mail.manifestorsunitehub.com, and that'll be in the writing underneath. Still, is there anything about polyphonic toning you want to tell us about? Painting, cooking, we told us about dancing. Tell us, first of all, you're a tremendous singer and you do these tones. And I only know 2 people in the last 10 years who do this, where my laptop, my iPhone, my car speakers can't handle it, but I know tremendous energy is happening. So with words only, take us how they can find you and hear you singing. We'll get that clip. You were kind enough to send me one and we'll work this in somehow. But what is happening when you sing? Are you tapping into the universe? Are you delivering a high vibe energy?
Well, it's actually quite a funny story of how we got to the tones, because so part of the quantum touch journey that I went on, when you're working with a group, sometimes toning and breathing can really help to bring in that extra little support for somebody who is, wanting to shift some density out of their body. And the way we were taught it was just go into this tone. So yeah, I was in this class with people and they were just going, oh. And they were like, oh, and there was some really bad one. I was like, oh. So then I thought, I'm going to learn something so that when I tone, I can elevate. And so I learned to polyphonic tone. And if anyone wants to learn how to do it, Barcelona overtone choir are incredible toners and polyphonic toners, and it's an Egyptian art. People used to go to sound rooms and they would lie on these benches and these toners would come in, and I did a little bit, just a very deep one when we were doing the activation. The reason why I love them, aside from the fact that they can support the edges of them is because there's no denying the divine. It's like the sunrise. So I'll put my head this way so that I don't. But if I just do a tone, you can hear the duality, and the top tone is the universe. The other one is mine. So I'll just do a quick demo.
We lost. Do you still have the sound? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because we went beyond what the circuits could handle. We heard the first part and then it disappeared and it went faint.
Oh,
and yeah, we'll play it back later. And it's funny, but there's is there anything on your website for your singing? Is it Instagram? How does somebody check out you in action when it comes to singing, or is it just scattered around your social media?
No, I haven't done anything very. I should probably put something that's a little bit more, because the main reason for it is it's a healing tone, and it's an ancient practice that dates back to the Egyptians. And if you get a bunch of people, it's really, the tones actually just take off. The top tones, everyone is just doing the lower, but the top tones go into this.
Oh,
They start
I've had
playing.
to bring every volume level of every device down to the bare minimum at the lowest level, and then do this to listen, because it can't. None of the circuit, none of the tech can
Oh,
handle it. Yes,
yeah.
otherwise we would have already had you sing, and I would have included a clip somewhere in the social media. But at this point, I don't know how to convey it because I just don't have a professional studio
So
that can handle
yeah, it's really interesting. Well, maybe it's not meant for,
it. It might
but
be
you
one of those
can.
special things.
But the thing is that if you watch, so that Barcelona overtone choir, I just absolutely, they basically inspired me to learn it. But these individuals, they come into the underground in Barcelona, and they just walk in, and they stand in a circle, and they all start toning, and the men go really low and the women are high, and then in terms of the physical tones, but then the universal ones just take off, and they just start playing with each other, and these incredible orchestral uh, sounds come out. So I just recommend anyone who thinks that they are interested in a new trick or a new something to add to their healing, look up polyphonic overtone singing, or the Barcelona overtone choir,
Oh, I
because
love it.
anyone can learn how to do it. Or Mongolian throat singing, I think that's another.
And that
They'll,
should be easily searchable on the web.
yeah,
Mongolian throat
singing,
singing. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Okay, let's go back over a final checklist, then we'll do our bid everybody adieu. But let's go over a basic checklist if a person's just coming in right now. So, Carmel, do angels exist?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you had some incredible experiences with them? Do you call them in once a week, once a year, when you remember, daily, whenever it's applicable?
Well, I don't know how, I'm surrounded right now by an orchestra of angels. It's not, they exist. It's our allowing of them that allows ourselves to be wrapped in their goodness and in their light and in their intelligence and in their humor and in their playfulness and all of the other virtues. And that's what angels are. They're just an encouragement of us to reach for virtues, and to tread lightly and to walk in our faith, and to be stronger than we think we are, because we need reminders as mortals. And yeah, angels are virtues. We just need to appreciate them more.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, how big are our hearts? Each one of us has a big heart, but give us a little reminder, a kick in the pants, encouragement to trust our hearts more.
150 times more powerful than your mind.
Hmm.
Love is the highest frequency of the universe. You can absolutely never ever underestimate how far your love will go if you give it without any limits. And love in its natural state has no limits. It's not it's not something that you can say, well, I love this person. I mean, love is love. And it just, like light, it just exists. And yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Beautiful. Okay, so look, American idioms. I did the with the works, and that was something earlier in the conversation, and we made you laugh. Give us one that's a Kiwi or a country or indigenous idiom that is absolutely incredible. I was about to use an idiom to describe your idiom that you're about to give us. That's the bomb. Give us an idiom that we shouldn't lose sight of because it's such a good refresher, such a good reminder about all of this, or two or three.
I was gonna. So we have a saying. It's called "chur bro. Chur, and it means good, and you have to use your mouth to use it. So it's inherent. The goodness is chur.
Sure.
Chur, yeah. Kia ora is actually our greeting, and it means hi. So it's informal, but it actually, the deeper meaning of it is actually to life. Kia ora, to life.
It's a little
Our
bit
word,
like namaste in a
yeah.
way.
And our word for love, aroha, means love, but it also means abundance of breath. Aroha. So yeah, aroha, which is close to aloha.
Yes, I love it.
Use aroha.
Aroha.
Mm, mm. Oh, good pronunciation. You have mastered your Latin.
No. So I think we've covered a lot of ground. I know not to take up too much more of your energy now. I think we've rounded the bases, as we would say, to use another American idiom. Is there anything else, though, you want to remind us about? Show us. Is there something on Instagram? Is it something about the book? Do you have another project coming up? Tell us something somehow, or just give us a, I think I've got it. We set the intent at the beginning, but we don't want to forget the closing, and also setting our intent as we return to our respective worlds. It's all one world. I mean, many questions, as Geronimo would say, one answer, he reminds us. And isn't that pretty? Because it's, but you've got to do the word I just said really well, but I'm so vacuous, I've already forgotten it.
So we started with the whakatoki, which was aroha mai, aroha atu. And that's love given is love returned. And that pretty much sums it up. If we live in that proverb, then we don't really have to think about much else.
And the birds are singing. So I think we've got ourselves the perfect ending on this. Well, thank you very much, Carmelle Riley in New Zealand, just west of Auckland. Auckland, if you weren't paying attention like myself, but Ruatuna is the area which is much more jungly and rivers and lush, and you can see that behind her. Birdsong galore. Carmelle, again, is all about big energy, manifesting, paying attention. And she's got this beautiful book coming out. And again, replay parts of this at least, if not the whole thing, to take advantage of her guidance for dropping to your heart, listening, feeling, and experiencing more than the structure that's up here. And do feel free to reach out to her. You do one-on-one. Yes. So people can figure that out when they get to her website. Thank you so much, Carmelle Riley. Thank you for being on Angels, Positivity, and Love today.
Thank you, Michael. I just want to honor the audience, and I want to honor your holding of space. This is probably one of the most beautiful interviews that I have participated in a very long time. And I really felt as we were going through that we were just connected into this river of love and this river of connection with the audience. And I always feel this, even when I was throwing my phone, the presence of, and our active presence is so important. So yeah, thank you so much for creating the show and for inviting me onto the show and for sharing with our audience this love, aroha, my aroha atu that is within us all. Thank you.
Ataha. And you have definitely taught me the importance of setting the intent. Then there becomes the question of remembering. So I am going to remind everybody to remember, if you can remember, when you remember. And with that, we're signing off on Carmelle Riley in New Zealand. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.